welcome everybody to the BI Marketing Summit. It is good to see everybody on day one of Cannes Lion. Hope it's a good start to your Monday. Gents, good start to a Monday morning?
Yes.
Yes?
Hot.
Toasty, but we're
Perfect.
We'll make our way through it. As I said, my name is Brian Benedik. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer of the Weather Company, and I am thrilled to lead a discussion today with two great gentlemen on how to capture consumer attention and become a driver of culture. For reintroductions, with me to your right is Tim Ellis, the Chief Marketing Officer of the National Football League. Welcome.
Woo!
And Glenn Cole, the founder and chairman of 72andSunny. So,
Okay,
Glenn.
let's go.
And having 72andSunny and the Weather Company on one panel is pretty awesome.
This is very appropriate.
Not very 72andSunny today, but we'll do our best. So these two are very strong partners, and they've had a mandate to really shift the National Football League from a traditional sports league to more of an entertainment powerhouse. So we're going to talk about that transformation quite a bit, and I want to explore a few themes as we go through that discussion. First thing I want to talk about is the brand transformation. At the Weather Company, we're going through one ourselves here, from what's been a very quick kind of weather forecast experience to much more of a lifestyle wellness experience. So these things are hard, and you have to know what you're getting yourself into, right? There's bumps along the way, and you make pivots. But I'd like to start with Tim. If you can go back, Tim, 8 years ago when you joined the National Football League, what were some of the kind of the internal headwinds that you were facing from this great football league to going into a transformation?
Yeah, at that time, it was sort of a perfect storm. It was post Colin Kaepernick and Eric Reed and so many other players who were, speaking out and had a very important messages to deliver, and people really weren't listening. And it was a difficult time because the NFL had they had said so themselves. They didn't handle it very well, right? And they were sort of getting pulled into a lot of political discussions and so forth, and essentially had lost controlling their own narrative, right? Their own story. And at the same time, there's a lot of discussion around CTE with concussions, the movie Concussion with Will Smith and so forth. So it was a difficult period. A lot of the headlines were all about the NFL basically being a dinosaur and basically losing their fan base. And so it for a marketer, it opened up an incredible opportunity, right, to come in and actually provide some guidance on how to build the brand and how to bring the players more into the core and the forefront of the NFL. I basically coined a strategy called the NFL helmets off strategy, which essentially was, let's get the helmets off on all of our marketing materials, gets the helmets off the players, have them be the face of the league. And that would allow us to humanize the league, to provide more sort of a compassionate expression of the league, and be willing to engage in complex discussions and be vulnerable around that. And what it did was, like, it also allowed us to get behind the things that the players cared about, right? And so us being partners, true partners with the players, and us having a much more human approach in everything that we did, brought a lot of people back in, and over time, it really built the perceptions around the league. It healed the tensions between the league and the players, so it became more of a sort of a partnership-based relationship. And ultimately, it expanded our fan base with young people, girls and women, and people of color. And it helped us kind of like move forward in a very different way.
Definitely want to get into that helmets off strategy because it was brilliant. I guess, Glenn, as the creative partner to the NFL, this idea of threading a needle between all the wonderful legacy elements to now this transformation, how'd you go through that as the creative partner with Tim?
Okay, first I'm going to ask, are there NFL fans here? Is this all NFL fans? Hey, got any Seattle Seahawks fans up in here? Seahawks! Ooh. I'm sorry, we won that fucking Super Bowl, though. Any 49er fans? This guy.
Look at that.
New Orleans Saints? Cam Jordan, are you here? All right. So we got any other team? Did somebody? New York is having its moment. Giants. Giants? Rams?
Her Jets.
Jets? That's why I couldn't hear it, because it's Jets. We got one other up here. We got 2 Jets. Let's go, Birds!
The Eagles fans are the loudest.
It's a bit of the answer to the question. Like, everybody, at least in the States, has kind of come up with it, whether you're born into a team fan base or moved to a city and then kind of decided to make it yours. That was when you're an agency and you start working with a brand, sometimes there's an established customer base or fan base, but the NFL it's ridiculous. I mean, it's just a gigantic number. Everybody has an answer. So it's really not at all about having the NFL be its best self. It's about how the NFL will grow and how you get more people who did not raise their hands, even if they're not drinking, to come into the fold. And so the Helmets Off is such a brilliant strategy because it allows us to talk about the sport as much as the league, in some ways more than the league. So now we're talking about a topic that people don't have to decide if they're polarized about, the NFL or CTE or anything like that. We're talking about a game which has great values. And that's been the fun and the challenge of the work over the last 8 years.
Yeah, lifelong Giant fan here, and I think we're on the way
Giants,
up, folks.
There's your guy.
We're on the way up. We got some mojo back. We got to put up the scoreboard. Let's see.
It's a good year for you guys.
Do want to talk a little bit about connecting with the modern fan. There's a lot of effort around this idea of meeting the fan where they are, and I know you've both done a lot of work there. Again, at the Weather Company, we're doing quite a bit of this through our transformation with understanding behavior and passion and interests of our consumers and building a whole new experience around that. Once again, hard to do, but in this environment, you have to break some things, right? You have to stop doing some things and maybe start doing some others. Tim, if we can dig a little deeper into that Helmets Off strategy, you mentioned it was designed to kind of humanize players, lean into personality. Talk to us more about that strategy. How did prioritizing kind of this human element, how did it help expand the fandom of the NFL?
Well, you have your avid fans, and then you have your more casual fans. And we basically 2/3 of the country in the U.S. are fans. But if you look at that fan base, you see that while you might have 47% of our fan base who are women, there tend to be casual fans, right? Which is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to speak more to them and to talk about the things that they care about, right? And so we again, by working with the players and by understanding the things that really they burn for, and whether that could be like a cause or a foundation, that could be fashion, that could be music, gaming, what have you. It was a way to sort of connect with casual fans and bring them closer in. And that, for us, was the key, really, to growth for the NFL. Not just in the size of the fan base, which, of course, we monetize, but also the image and the perception around the fans. And then also, key to, long-term fandom was having favorite players, right? So if you really get and not just the top 5% of the guys who always get the big endorsements, but those other players on these teams that fans can learn about their families, learn about their interests, and sort of it becomes talk value, right? And so we just found that by leaning into that strategy of Helmets Off, we're still talking about the joy of the game. So it's not like football was divorced from the game. It's just that we added more inside access and more intimacy around the game and with the players themselves. And then, of course, the players began to get on board and amplify themselves and to be part of your media strategy, right? In many ways, our players are our best creators, right? And they're also our best ambassadors of the game. So that's been key to our success.
It's been real good work. Glenn, would love to hear your thoughts on this Helmets Off strategy. It's been brilliant all around.
You're next to me. I couldn't even hear you.
I would just love to hear your thoughts around the Helmets Off strategy, and how that was built and your collaboration with Tim and everybody else.
Well, it's a very open strategy creatively. So, it allows anybody to kind of play into it. And it's human. which I find as an agency representative in the room, I don't know how many else there are, but it's very hard to find briefs that are very humanity forward now, right now in 2026. Very difficult and rare. So, and you can see in the work, it sort of lends itself to highly human, highly personal topics that I think transcend football. I mean, that hopefully you guys like the Super Bowl ad, but that what we were very proud to end it. Thank you, coaches, not thank you, football coaches. And we've had mentors and teachers tell us that meant something to them. So creatively, I feel like Helmets Off is sort of like an infinitely giving, open space creatively, so thank you. Way to author a great strategy. But I think that is a hallmark of a great strategy. It allows you to be generative, and it doesn't look like it will have limits ongoing.
Yeah. Would love to move over to your partnership with you and Tim and the anatomy of that. You know, I'd love to talk about kind of the operating principles of how you both operate, you know, because you have a world-class partnership. There's folks in the room from the brand side, the agency side, that we all have partnerships. We'd love to learn as, you know, how you both build yours. But you have a special working relationship that's grounded in, 15 years plus of working together, started at Activision, carried over to the NFL. Maybe a question that you both can respond to, you know, what are the non-negotiable principles of your relationship today? How does this partnership work? Maybe, Tim, you could start.
Non-negotiable, Tim.
Non-negotiable.
We're not negotiating.
No, I think trust and transparency is first, right? And that we're in this together. Like, we have a common vision. We're in this together. On the one hand, you got to land on the right idea. On the other hand, you know, there's always another idea, right? And I think that we have enough sort of humility amongst us as a team that we always get to the right place and we have the right discussions, and we're very open, like a family would be, really. We're very open, and we talk about our teams as if they're the same team. Like, I talk about his team as if it were my team, and he does the same with mine. And I think that having that sort of family-like atmosphere and that way of engaging is very important. But I do think the honesty and the trust, because, you know, when you're talking creative, sometimes it can get very sensitive because it's very subjective, right? And so whether you agree or not agree, you can try to break it down rationally and say something does or doesn't do something. But there are times when you just don't like it, or it doesn't hit you emotionally, doesn't feel right. And that could be an idea, it could be a piece of music, it could be whatever. And so having the right discussions, being open, and not just locking in on something and, you know, sort of, no, it has to be this way because was my first instinct, but allowing yourself to sort of reflect and listen and reconsider is very important. I think that we have that relationship, and ultimately we just want to do great work that moves the needle. And I think that, and that's definitely a non-negotiable. Like, I don't want to do anything which is in any way mediocre or it doesn't sort of hit that high bar.
Is it good, before I go to Glenn, Tim, is there good permission between the two of you to debate, to argue, to really get into it?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, we laugh about it sometimes. Like, sometimes I want to hug him, sometimes I want to punch him in the face. And he says the same thing about me, which is not surprising.
Yeah,
my
that's
wife
true.
says that too, by the way, but whatever.
That's what friends are for.
True story. I feel like it's addition, we put non-negotiables. We have mantras, you know, one team, one dream. We really try to live up to that. But the non-negotiable is no bullshit. Absolutely don't bullshit each other. And so I think in what we all do, you can sell yourself on something that, like, this is good. Like, this will be cool, or this will work. And it helps to have somebody, usually it's on the same company, be your truth teller. But Tim and I try to be truth tellers with each other, like, hey, I think you're selling a strategy that's just bullshit. I don't think it's really, that's not a true insight. And he'll listen. Or we'll be selling some idea, and he'll say, hey man, I see what you're excited about. I just don't think this thing's going to be like light people up. I just don't think it will. And then we'll debate it. And so I think the no bullshit is the non-negotiable. And then probably in hand with that is a commitment to listen to each other. So a lot of our relationship happens on text. A lot of it happens with calls. A lot of it's like the raw, or I'll just be like, hey, we're having a meet. We're presenting to you in 10 minutes. Here's what I think. And I know that's kind of off the company line, but I think we can all help our teams do better by just being real with each other before we get in a room.
Yeah, and I think close to that is like not playing games, right? I mean, unfortunately, listen, I was in the agency world for a good part of my career, and so I know that you have to get your client to buy off on something that you think is right and that you think will do well. But at the same time, like, don't play games. Like, be honest about what it is and what it isn't. And I think we have that kind of relationship to where there's no bullshit going on about how to sell something or how to play some games or whatever in order to get something sold. It's more, I mean, going through the front doors, I like to say. It's just much more straightforward and open about it. And again, if you don't agree, you don't agree. But let's just be honest with each other.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe a follow-up, Tim, with your brand and agency background for marketing leaders in the room. I think CMOs are always asking their creative agencies, hey, I want disruptive ideas. I want big, grand ideas. But then you also have to be careful. You got to play it safe a little bit, too. You have to thread that needle. What advice would you give for marketing leaders around, I want a disruptive idea to your agency?
Yeah, playing not to lose is really not a good idea. Meaning that, you know, I particularly for CMOs, it's rough out there, right? You're constantly being asked to do things for less. You're always judged on the last thing you did, right? And you know, there's always this sense that there's another brighter, more interesting, more dynamic team or person or agency or whatever that can come in and do it. And you have to deal with that stress, that level of tension. But trying to play it safe, right? Not really going for it and taking some risks is really not a winning strategy. And you can, and the best example of that is probably the Super Bowl. There's just too many. I mean, it's a big deal. Everyone's judging your ad. You spend a lot of money going into the Super Bowl. Creative teams are nervous as hell that their ad might not be seen as one of the best ones. And so, and then of course, marketing people are afraid that somehow they won't be seen as being great either. And then, oh my God, you spent all that money. How have you wasted the company's money, right? And so, but trying to do something that somebody else has done just differently, trying to follow somebody else's rule book, or trying to find something that you think, well, nobody's going to hate that, right? It's just not, I certainly have never done that, and we don't do that. And I think if you sit around trying to make decisions that won't get you fired, you can be sure you'll get fired, right?
Amen.
Well, again, if the NFL can do some disruptive things, I think we all can, right? You've done a heck of a job with all that. Glenn, I'll throw the question back to you, maybe flip it. With the NFL and Tim specifically as a partner and a client, what are some things that, you know, other clients can replicate that he does well?
You know, the devil's in the details on a lot of this stuff. I think I'll give you a macro one and a detail answer. On the macro, if you're a marketer trying to inspire your agency, I think being very clear on the ambition being high and the expectations clear from the outset is everything. I mean, that's 99.999%. And as obvious as that sounds, from where we sit, things come in 50% clear almost all the time, maybe less. Briefs can be unclear, you know, it's in a formal document, but you're kind of like, it's not really adding up. So being clear about your ambition, being clear about your expectations, and then setting a high bar for the ambition. I find it's very helpful that Tim talks about the ambitions not in like what ad we want to make. It's like, what do we want the world to look like after we put it out there? And what do we want the world to look like after we do that and the organization follows us? And so that's a really helpful puzzle for us to figure out. Now, the devil in the detail thing, I'll just give you, it's a freebie. I apologize for how obvious this seems, but Tim does a great job of organizing his team in a way where everyone's clear on their role in the system. And a lot of times when we walk into rooms, it's kind of unclear who the decider is. There's sort of like feedback comes from like the intern up to the CMO in that order. Nobody actually makes a decision in the room. We'll get back to you, and it's an email, and it doesn't really add up with what you heard. And that's very frustrating. And then you spend a lot of time unpacking that. Tim is very clear, I'm the decider. And his team knows that and respects it. And it's not a power play. It's just he knows that will get a good outcome. And it frees his team up to be strong inputters. Because they know, like, hey, you're making the call, but I'll tell you what I think. I mean, and I also know I'm not going to get fired for saying this. Because sometimes in that intern to CMO thing, there's this guessing game, like, did I guess what the CMO's, my boss is going to say? So I offer that to you as I think it's actually one of the biggest things you can do in your marketing organization is just create hyper clear decider, inputter roles.
Yeah, I think that's critical. And I think obviously you don't want to in any way shut down conversation or input. You want all that input. And I'm very open to changing my mind. And I have changed my mind more than once.
Very annoying.
But
good. But
I like, no, but I mean, at the end of the day, like, I think you need somebody to make a decision. The worst thing you can do is have an indecisive situation where you don't know, like, wait, is this approved? Is this not approved? What do you like? What do you not like? And like, today you liked it, tomorrow you don't like it. Like, that's very, very difficult to operate with, right? And so I really do my best, and any idea can come from anybody. A great idea can come from anybody. And that sounds kind of cliche, but it's really true. And when I work with my teams or even with the agency, if I feel like they provided input that really helped make the work better, help us make a better decision, I always afterwards give them a call and say, hey, that was really awesome. What you said there, that really helped a lot. Or for whatever reasons, if they're not speaking up, I'll call them and say, I noticed you didn't say anything in the meeting. Why? What's going on? Because I want their input. And I want them to be a part of it because that gets great work. But at the same time, I mean, you got to be able to lock in on something. And once you lock in on something, everybody's got to get behind it. And if they feel like they've had an opportunity to influence the work and they've played a critical role in getting to the work, then even if you don't go with something that they may have thought was the best one, they'll still get behind it and do everything in their power to make it great.
It's amazing, too. How many meetings do we sit in where nobody know who the decision maker is? Like, you got to know who the D is. It's pretty important, and let's get grounded in that. That makes the work, I think, go particularly well. With 5 minutes left, I promised myself I wasn't going to go here, gents, but I am. We're going to talk about AI, shockingly, because there's no talk here this week about AI, right? But I think it's really relevant to the three of us. Obviously, at the Weather Company, we're grounded in AI with science and technology. It's revolutionizing everything that we do. For your business, I suspect, as well. And I guess the question maybe both of you can respond to, with tech evolving, particularly with AI, like what's next for the NFL and 72andSunny? Like, what does this look like in a AI world over the next few years?
In AI, you mean? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you can imagine at the NFL, we approach AI in a number of ways. Like it's the marketing communications and how we go to market, how we deliver things. And then it's also like the game itself, right? And that's, that's everything around teams and coaches and GMs and rules of the game and judging what happens in the game and all that.
Did I hear, Tim, a rumor that
deep into that.
scheduling is AI based now? Is that true?
There's an aspect to it, yeah. And, I mean, and I will say this, and probably most companies can say this. Today, we use AI in almost everything, right? There's still a very important layer of judgment, even in schedules, which I think one of the great things about the NFL, one of the things that we've done really well is the scheduling. There's a reason that there's so many great games and that there's so many close games and high-scoring games and games that are decided in the last couple minutes. It's because the scheduling is absolutely excellent, right? But as it relates to marketing and so forth, listen, the way I look at anything we do, whether it be a development of an idea or a technology that we use, it's always about getting closer to your audience, right? Having a more intimate relationship with your audience. And AI already can allow you to get a level of insight and relevance that you couldn't have even before, right? So, and whether that's delivering a one-to-one type message or whether it's understanding insight of your audiences on a macro level, or just finding ways to get their attention and get to be more interesting to them and understand them better, that's always going to be helpful to you, right? But when you start giving up the judgment of what you're going to do based on a judgment of what AI tells you to do, I think that's a whole different story. We do not do that. I mean, sure, we have machine learning and mass one-to-one marketing, of course, but still we carefully determine what those options are before they're executed. And I certainly would never agree to go a certain direction without really thoroughly thinking it through and looking at it again, and then making a decision, which again, if I talk about Roger Goodell and the guys who finalize the schedules, they do the same thing. So we have all the insight and data and technology to help us get to the right place. But then, I mean, Roger changes a lot before the final schedule.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Glenn, would love to understand from your chair, you know, how does AI impact your partnership with the NFL, but how does it impact your business as a creative agency?
It's a big topic with creative companies because it feels like not peanut butter and jelly. It's really, in our company, in a creative company, it's very helpful, obviously, for efficiencies and speed. So getting to an idea or helping present something that's a little closer to what we envision faster happens thanks to AI. So we lean into it as much as possible there. But because, and we know this, it's all rearward looking, it just is not a good partner creatively to leap with us. Our value as creative company and our value as marketers is taste and human connection. So we're trying to find all the areas where that's not part of the mix. Can AI take over in the process? And then really amplify the conversations between us about, is this going to light somebody up, get us closer to fans? That's an interesting insight, maybe more insightful than we would have come up with our own desktop research. What's a leap here? So I guess if your creative work, great creative work requires great creative partners. Like, I don't think that's changing. AI can facilitate that, but that ultimately, I think, is still the promise. I don't see that changing. Actually, I think AI is bringing that into focus more than ever. And this is a creative guy. He has a CMO title, but he is a creative human. And one of the things that our whole company respects about Tim and that separates him from his peers and our other clients is he'll show up with creative ideas. And in the meeting, whether it's an approval meeting, he'll be suggesting creative stuff. And there's some meetings where some client would say, hey, I don't want to step on your toes creatively. Well, first of all, he's never said that. And I totally welcome it. I'm like, thank God. Give us the idea. You got to, and it'll be wardrobe, shoes, whatever. But anyway, great creative work needs great creative people. AI is just there to support for now.
Yep. Tim, quick answer as we're going to time out in a minute. We're in the south of France this week. We've seen the NFL evolve and schedule quite a bit of international venues over the last few years. If you look over the next few years, where's this heading with international exposure and the league and so forth?
Oh, it's a train that's going. We're very aggressive in our plans internationally. We've already got in 195 countries broadcast the game, right? 25 different languages. This year we'll play 9 games, and that's dramatically increased in just the last few years. We'll be in Melbourne, Australia. Any Australians in here? No? No, okay. Well, 49ers and Rams will be playing in Australia not too long from now. That'll be awesome. And then, we're playing games. The game is a catalyst. It helps us get the attention and get people interested and get the media and people talking about it. But we really got to create real, true fandom. So we're doing a lot of work to understand sports fandom in all our core markets around the world. And then how do you position properly the NFL for growth? What is it about the game that is really interesting and unique that we can be better at in terms of communicating? Because at the end of the day, you got to help people find their community. You got to have, you can't just be lone, fans in a living room with your phone or your TV watching the game. You got to help people consume that game with others, because we all know that's what makes sports so much fun, right? And so getting communities together, understanding how to position the game, quite frankly, getting people to understand how to the rules of the game, right? Because anybody who grew up with the game knows that the rules are relatively simple for us because we grew up with it. But if you don't know the game, it actually can appear to be quite chaotic and not clear. So we're doing a lot of work just to understand how to teach people just the right things in order for them to enjoy the game.
Yep. Hey, we could keep going here, but we got a schedule to keep. A couple of closing thoughts. It's going to be a toasty week, so make sure you check your Weather Channel app. We'll help you get through the heat. We'll do our best. We don't control the weather, but we can at least make you informed. How about a hand for Tim and Glenn? Good, fun, thoughtful conversation. Thank you, gents.